In this video, we're going to take a look at an orange ink by Pilot Mixable Orange. Now, as always, there's timestamps down below so you can skip around, but if you've got the time, I'd appreciate you checking out the entire video. Also down in the description is a link to the orange ink playlist, so if you wanted to see more, you can find that there. I'm an ink guy, and let's get into the first writing sample done on 90 GSM Clairfontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. We have no feather, spread, and no shading, no tone variation at all. Very solid performance here. The extra fine took 14 seconds to dry. Medium took 17 seconds to dry. Scrubby gives no color variation. There's none in the writing, and the smear test you could not recover if you smeared while you were writing. To have a range of experience with this ink, all of the writing samples are done with a Jinhao 159 with a 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a medium, and a Jinhao X750 with an extra fine. Then a Pierre Cardin President with a medium nib was inked up, used for a day, and used to take the notes for this video. The next writing sample is done on 52 GSM Tomoe River. We have no bleeding, but man, look at how deep that stub came into the paper. It's almost working its way to come through. We do have plenty of ghosting with this very thin paper. We have no feather, no spread. We do get some tone variation where the extra fine is the lightest on the page, medium's a little bit darker, and the stub is quite a bit darker than the medium. There's no shading in any of the writing. The extra fine took 18 seconds to dry, medium took 26. Scrubby for both give no color variation. We're not getting shading in the writing, and the smear test you could not recover if you smeared while you were writing. I agree with Vita. There's a lot to learn by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. A line of ink is put down and then it's put into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And we see there's a pink at the bottom that's moving its way up really steady and evenly. Then we get into a nice darker orange at the top, which is also moving very evenly as it moves up. Now the one on the right that's let dry for 10 minutes before it's put into water, interesting how you see so much of that pink stay in place. The other thing that's occurring is the orange isn't moving as high up. It does suggest that that pink tone may be a little bit more resistant. The next writing sample is done on 80 GSM Rhodia dot pad. Now while there's no actual bleed that is going on, we can see that here in the stub, we have areas that it's coming through very deep, and it's causing quite a bit of ghosting with that, which is not common with this paper. Other than that, we have no bleeding or ghosting. Now we have no feather, no spread, no shading in any of the writing. The extra fine is just a hair lighter than the medium, and the stub is a little bit darker than the medium. The extra fine took 11 seconds to dry and the medium took 15. Scrubby for both give us no color variation. We don't get any shading in the writing, and the smear test you could not recover if you smeared while you were writing. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink could be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it may be to clean from your pen. The smear is allowed to dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, it is performing exceptionally well. It would make me feel very safe to use this in a note-taking situation. Now, water is reactivating and lifting a lot of this ink. We can see some of the white of the paper coming through. It's probably why it only took water to get it out of the pen. Now, pen flush does everything that water does, nothing more. It looks like more is left, but all the way around the edge, you do see white of the paper coming through. 1/3 bleach solution is completely removing it, though discoloring the paper slightly. The next writing sample is done on life paper. We have no bleeding and no ghosting. No feather, no spread, no shading within the writing, tone variation from the writing, the extra fine being lighter than the medium, and the medium lighter than the stub. Extra fine took 12 seconds to dry, while the medium took 16. Scrubby for both give no color variation. We get no shading in the writing, and the smear test you could not recover if you smeared while you were writing. For the inks tested, the average viscosity was 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Pilot's Mixable Orange has a viscosity of 1.88, so this is a wet ink. If you're interested in how the viscosity tests and all that's done, then down in the description is a link to that video. The next writing sample is done on Levenger paper. Not a paper that normally has trouble with bleeding or ghosting, but there are some spots that are coming through much heavier. And it's just that it's getting deep into the page. It shows this is a little bit more aggressive ink. Not that this would stop you from using the back of the page, and it certainly doesn't touch the page underneath. We have feathering in the stub. We have tiny feathering when you look at jumps and quick in the medium, but no feathering in the extra fine. The extra fine, or no spread in any of them. The extra fine is the lightest tone on the page, while medium and the stub are the same tone. The extra fine took 2 seconds to dry and the medium took 3. Scrubby for both show no color variation. We get no shading in the writing, and a smear test you probably could not recover if you smeared while you were writing. For the inks tested, the average dry time was 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Pilot's Mixable Orange has an average dry time of 17 seconds, so that it's not just normal, it's average. The last writing sample is done on Franklin Christoph paper. This shows just how aggressive this ink actually is, because there's a ton of spots that are coming through the paper, not touching the page underneath, so it doesn't corrupt that, but it does lead me to a position where I would not want to use the back of the page, because that spotting on both sides would really drive me crazy. Now, we're getting feathering in the stub, tiny, tiny feathers. I see it in orange. We get no feathering in the extra fine or the medium. We have no spread in any of the writing. We do get a little bit of shading in the extra fine, not stub or medium, but you see it in quick, you see it in brown. The looks darker than the word over. Extra fine took 2 seconds to dry, while the medium took 3. Scrubby for both give no color variation, though we do see a few darker spots occurring with the extra fine. And the smear test says you could not recover if you smeared while you were writing. Instead of finding inks that look like Pilot's Mixable Orange, I'd prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I went with a purple ink by Monteverde, their Purple Mist. Now, if you'd prefer a different complement color, then down in the description are links to those playlists. So what do I think of Pilot's Mixable Orange? It's a solid, basic orange, really a convenience color when it comes to ink mixing. It performs as well as any other orange ink that you can choose, although to be fair, sometimes it can be a little aggressive. So what nib and pen will give the best writing experience with this ink? Really, I think the only thing to avoid is a very wet pen, because we did see where this ink can be a little bit aggressive. Other than using a very wet pen, I see it as dealer's choice. Anything that's medium or dry flow is going to look great on the page. I hope you got something out of this video, and in the next video, we're going to take a look at Ackerman's number 17.